When we were kids, our family had a vacation home in Hollywood, South Carolina. By we, I mean my 3 brothers and I. And by vacation home, I mean this 3-bedroom mobile home. It wasn't fancy, but it was part of our childhood and is still nostalgic to think about. Whenever we got off the highway and started seeing nothing but farms, we'd know we're almost there. I'm the second oldest. At the time of this story, I'm gonna guess our ages were 14, 12, 10, and 8. The mobile home was a little primitive, but we had electricity at least. The TV up there was very old, but it was good enough to bring our PlayStation and play on. We'd been going up there so long that we had a bunch of places we'd love to go. This big playground for an elementary school that we'd always play hide and seek tag in while our parents sat there and read magazines. This grocery store that we would love to play games in as well. We even loved exploring all the woods surrounding the property. The nearest neighbors were a bit of a walk away, but nothing too crazy or far that our parents wouldn't let us walk it. This was the first year that they let our youngest brother Todd come exploring with us too, while they stayed behind in the mobile home. We walked down a different road that strays away from the dead end, and it's worth noting that there was next to no traffic on these roads, as our mobile home was on a long road that eventually led to a dead end, so the only through traffic would be the few people who lived on this road. There was always this questionable looking house and farm that we never saw a car at ever in our lives. It sat at the top of this little hill overlooking the road. There was a small cornfield, which would imply that there were still people living there, but it was just strange how all our lives going there we never saw anyone there, whether it be a person or car. So between the woods surrounding the property, the 2 buildings, the shed, and the cornfield, we realized this was a perfect spot to play hide and seek tag. It was broad daylight right now. We decided our oldest brother Tony would be seeker first, and we'd go in order, oldest to youngest. So the rest of us went to go hide. I went to go hide in the crops. I heard Tony call out, "Ready or not, here I come," and so I simply sat down in the browning crops, completely hidden. I waited and waited until I heard a rustling in the crops and footsteps crunching the rotted dead crop leaves on the ground. I didn't know which of my brothers it was, but I wasn't taking a chance. I ran out of the crops and into the grass and up the hill towards the red shed. I expected Tony to come out after me, but he didn't, so I figured it was one of my little brothers. I heard commotion as Tony was chasing my 10-year-old brother George down the hill on the other side of the house, and the 2 were laughing and screaming. Tony caught him, and so George was out. I stayed put behind the shed. Then I noticed Todd, leaning against the back wall of the house, looking at me laughing. I put my finger up to my lips to go shh, and he did the same. Then I thought to myself, wait, who was in the cornfield with me then? Tony came around the house and immediately and easily tagged Todd, and then he saw me since I was in a straight line of sight from him. I started running down the hill, which gave me a good speed boost, but Tony got that same speed boost, and he was bigger and faster than me. He caught me with ease. The 4 of us met at the bottom of the hill by the road, and I was supposed to be up next. But I asked everyone if anyone had gone in the crops as well. When all of them said no, I got scared. I told them I heard someone walking in the crops, and it may have been the homeowner, so we should leave. With that, we left in a hurry and walked back to the mobile home, where our parents were watching a movie in the living room. For dinner, we went to the local pizzeria that we all loved. From what I remember, our dad told us that nobody lived in that house that we were playing at. So, when we got back and it was dark out, we just knew we wanted to play flashlight tag now. Our mom didn't want Todd coming out with us past dark, and I'm sure they only let us go because Tony was 14 and they thought he was old enough to keep an eye on us. So the 3 of us ventured off back to that house to play flashlight tag, which basically is hide and seek, but if you get exposed by the seeker with a flashlight, you're out. Once we got to the property again, it was like 90% dark out. They wanted me to seek this time since Tony did last time, so I turned around and counted to 60, and then I shouted, "I'm coming." I kept the flashlight off as a strategy to not give away my position. I could just barely see enough to navigate around. I ran up the hill to the house, which had no lights on. I peered around the walls of the house, and then the shed. I didn't see either of them. I looked into the trees, and decided to turn my flashlight on and look through the tree line. Still nothing, so I turned the flashlight back off. I knew one of them had to be in the cornfield. It was too obvious of a hiding spot. It was small enough that I could check it out. I got to the bottom of the hill by the cornfield and quietly pushed my way in. It was hard not to make noise in here, but I tried my best. I also kept the flashlight off to not make it obvious I was in here. I didn't realize until now that it was dark out how absolutely scary this was at night. As I was sneaking around the crops, I heard footsteps inside the crops. I had to be sneaky if I wanted to catch them. I honed in on exactly where the footsteps were coming from, and when I heard them right on top of me, I turned on my flashlight and yelled, "Caught," but all I saw was the back of someone running away from the light. "Who is that?" I said. "You're out." Then I heard this creepy laughter. It wasn't the laughter of my brothers, or any kid for that matter. It sounded like some deranged adult. I was frozen, apart from moving my hand with the flashlight around trying to see who it was. I heard a grown man's voice say very softly, "Can I play with you guys?" And then I saw his face. It was half covered by the few crops still separating the two of us. From what I could tell, he had this kind of deformed-looking face. I really couldn't tell if it was a mask or not. I ran out of the crops and started yelling my brothers' names, saying, "Run, game over." I heard them both yell back at me from the same spot. They hid together. I saw them running down the hill with their flashlights on. I turned mine on and told them to just keep running. We ran all the way down the road until we got back to our property, and we were out of breath. But I told them there was some deformed-looking, freaky man hiding in the crops, and that he was probably the one I heard in the crops earlier, too. I still remember their faces when I told them this. When I told my parents, they looked confused, and my dad didn't seem to know how to react. My mom made it clear she didn't want us going off the property past dark anymore. Honestly, I didn't want to anyway. I had trouble sleeping that night, thinking, what if that man was outside in the pitch darkness, outside one of the windows? I could tell I freaked everyone out a little bit with my description of the man. I had no reason to make it up, though, and they knew that. It goes without saying we didn't go back to that property up the road. Thank God it wasn't that close to our property. My family sold the property only a few years after this.